All right, my character portrait. It's done. I have to say, I'm quite happy with this. Look at that. Does it look similar? No. Not really the heroic figure I was going for, really, at all. Maybe it needs some colour. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of How to Be a Great GM. My name is Guy and today we're going to be looking quite closely at character portraits. Now, not a huge amount of information here that is new to the channel if you've been watching for a long time, but I have been included in a new project. I've spoken about it briefly last year, and this week we're going to unpack it fully. So if it feels like it's a sponsored video, it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. For me, this is the kind of product that we all need to know about and use moving forward. And it's not because, you know, they're paying for us to do that. They are doing that. Absolute full disclosure. Yes, 100%. However, you're going to see in the interviews that I have conducted for this video that it doesn't matter if they did or they didn't. I would still be talking about it. Now, character portraits are something that have been with us since the very beginning of time. They really have. The very first character sheet has always had that annoying little block which says portrait. And for the majority of us, stick figures are about as good as it can get. And even then, the stick figures never turn out the way we hope them to do. So what can we do? What are our alternatives? Our alternatives are to go online these days and find a portrait that vaguely kind of represents our character. If we, you know, change the eyes and ignore the hair color and add on a weapon and take that armor off and change the color, and basically it has nothing to do with anything whatsoever. It's just a cool picture. Or there are some options out there for sort of portrait generation, hero sort of picture stuff. Often it's anime style things or something along those lines. And there's nothing wrong with that. There is a new product, however, that is launching on the market and that we as a channel are getting into like you cannot believe. And I'm not the only one. There are other companies that are also leaping at this new product. So we're going to unpack that. We're going to look at some of the options that it gives us in terms of how is it going to actually work for us rather than just be another money sink, rather than just another, well, I used it once or twice and it's okay, or it's too finicky. So it is still an alpha, what the demo is, but it is a candid conversation between myself and Darren Giles. So without further ado, the sponsors of today's episode are Portrait Workshop company, the software, I should say, as developed by World Spinner, who has featured on this channel before for their heraldry creation software, which was really cool. So World Spinner, I should say, has now generated Portrait Workshop. And I spoke to Darren Giles to get the lowdown on just what it is that we can do in terms of random generation. There's nothing worse, in my opinion, than being a GM and going, oh, look at them players. The players have all got such nice portraits. Okay, you come across an orc. Have you got a picture of the orc? Says someone at the table. Oh, Google orc. Well, is it Tolkien orcs? Is it Warcraft orcs? Is it Bright orcs? What kind of orcs are? Oh my goodness. Whereas now, hopefully, we're going to see a random generator that's actually going to be usable in terms of, I want 1,000 portraits for my orc horde of actual orcs, not of 1,000 portraits that I have to choose 3 of that will represent my orcs. Darren, how are you doing, sir?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Darren, before we go too much into the software, although, and too much into the whole thing, I mean, this isn't a rah-rah video for the software, although it should be. I mean, the software is absolutely amazing. In a nutshell, why did you guys make it?
Well, we were looking at what are the gaps that exist when you're looking at either player characters or non-player characters. And one of the classic things, if you look at your character sheet, there's this nice little box there where you can put a portrait. And I don't know about you, but the vast majority of character sheets I've seen are thoughtfully filled out with all the stats, all the backgrounds, all the gear, and then there's a giant gap in that. And I personally find that being able to see a character really informs your perceptions of that character. We were looking at some things we can do both with World Spinner and then also for people that are doing a character for any reason at all. And I think we have a really interesting technology to bring to that.
Absolutely. So that's why we're here. So today we're talking about random character portraits inspiring us as game masters and as players. We're talking about constructing our own characters. And then we're talking about deconstructing those characters in terms of using them to tell a better story, to really get into the depth of our character from an image. So you're going to show us how to make some of those images, and that's using Portrait Workshop. That's your
Absolutely.
software. Now, just very, very quickly, the Kickstarter launches today at the time of this video, as a matter of fact. And what is the Kickstarter for?
So the core of Portrait Workshop is a large library of custom created artwork. And we were employing some really highly skilled artists and bringing them on board to do custom artwork for us. We've done quite a bit already, enough that we can really prove the concept out, show it off well. But in order to finish the project, we need a lot more. So this Kickstarter is primarily to raise funds to pay artists to build out the remainder of the library and really create the diversity and the range and the variety of characters that we think the world really wants.
Absolutely excellent. And you can bet your bottom dollar, folks, I've been chatting to Darren saying, oh, please, can we have this? Can we have that? As you know, I like to hit my hooks into these programs and really make sure that we're getting, well, pretty much what I want, which is hopefully what you want. We've already done a collaboration with Portrait Workshop. The software isn't finished yet. We've already said, okay, we want this. We're going to talk about that towards the end of the show. But let's get on with it. Let's talk about random generation. Now, Portrait Workshop, it does random generation. Let's have a look at that. Can you give us a demo?
Sure, absolutely. So let me bring up my iPhone here and we will start running the app.
Fantastic. Now, I think whilst Darren is doing that, it's important to bear in mind, this is based on desktop and on your mobile device. It's brilliant. It means you can make a character wherever you are, and whenever you want to. I think that's really, really cool. Okay, so this is the cell phone layout. Darren, is that correct?
Yeah, correct. And actually, I hate to do this, I have to interject. It's mobile only. We're actually not doing desktop yet. We will be doing a web-based version later, but we really heard from users that they wanted to see the mobile application first.
Perfectly fine. Okay, wonderful. So mobile first, desktop later. Got it. It's a good route to take. We're going to talk about export options later on as well. So this is the basic interface for the app. At the moment, we are still, is it alpha or is it beta? I think where are we at the moment?
Yeah, so at this point, we're technically alpha. So we've built out the rendering technology, the selection technology, really the core concepts and the basics of the user interface. And it's working at this point. It's an alpha. There's a few caveats. Quality control isn't final. Obviously, the library of content isn't final. That's the whole point of the Kickstarter. But what you will see here is a live working app. These are not canned, pre-drawn portraits. Every one of these is being assembled on the fly. And mostly what's left is to polish the rough edges and pour in more content.
Absolutely. And as proof of it's on the fly, I'm going to hold up my notes. You won't be able to see them, but if you can see that, that is my notes. Those are my notes for today's episode. So there is really no pre-planning going on here. Okay, random character generation. Make us a random character, Darren.
All right, so what I'm doing right now is I've hit the random button, and it's making a bunch of characters. Notice at the top of the screen, it's asking some basic questions about what kind of character do you want. But if we truly want random characters, these are just people of all ages, genders, races, classes. I've selected lead actor, which means that they're not the really goofy looking ones in there, hopefully. So we've really left it very, very wide open. So these might be people you would see anywhere. From here, there's quite a long list.
How many has it made?
It will make hundreds. I think at the moment, I think I actually have it set to a few dozen. Yeah, it'll make hundreds of portraits, and then you click the button, it'll make hundreds more. You can literally make millions of portraits without seeing a repeat. There's no reason for us to hold back.
Okay, and all right. So as a dungeon master, it's I need a village or I need a town. Bang! I now have that.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, if you wanted a town, for example, you might say, Is this in a given part of the world? Is there a certain race or certain ethnicity that would be there?
Right.
Are these just town commoners? So there's things you might do to narrow it down to give it a little more cohesion.
Okay, can you show us?
Sure. So, for example, let's say that your town is, well, let's make it interesting. Let's make it, actually, we don't want to choose gender, unless it's a really desperately boring town.
It's a very different. It's an interesting story, folks, but it's yes, okay. So so we've got a lot of different sort of ethnicities to a large degree there, and then races. Okay.
Yep. And there's one human race, as we like to say, but there's a lot of ethnicities within it. Again, we've done some of them. Finishing the full list is going to require the Kickstarter.
Of course.
And then for non-humans, we have the classic, as we like to say, fantasy races. But again, in the Kickstarter, there's stretch goals to unlock even more. So for human races, let's say, for example, let's do a African village, just to come up with something a little less white bread. And here we go. And so now there's a little more cohesion. Obviously, all of the portraits that you're seeing.
Right. And such a variety, and it will just create ad infinitum. I mean, that's brilliant.
Yeah. There is. It's producing these procedurally combinatorially, and there are all the pieces it can put together to make a unique face. Outfits are done in layers, much as you would put your own outfit together. So it's not just pick an outfit. It's what are all the pieces. Everything is custom colored with some pretty high quality rendering text, so that a given garment can be any color you want, even if it's fur. So there's as you can see, quite a wide variety here.
Absolutely.
It's just with selecting one variable.
I've noticed there's quite a lot of warriors and archers. Can we narrow it down based on class?
Sure. So we'll do that. And for example, let's say we wanted to make it, you're in the city and maybe you go into a temple. So let's look at clerics. So now we're looking at African clerics. And of course, you're seeing a lot of holy symbols would start showing up as you're seeing. We look at this guy here as a great example. So there's a character with kind of the classic mace and holy symbol and so on.
Yes. Now, how much of that can we edit?
Quite a bit, actually. So, for example, you could let's say, do we like that mace? Maybe we want to give him a different weapon. It gives us a wide range of weapons, or you can take away his weapon if you don't want him to be too violent. But the mace is not a bad choice, but we could also say for this image, maybe we don't want him carrying a weapon.
Right. And so it's always going to generate additional options when you select something.
Correct. Yeah, and so and you always see them in context. So here we are; it's the exact same character. Now we're just picking a range of different hairstyles.
Right.
And you see a bunch of classic African hairstyles, dreadlocks, and so on. We also generally allow you to go a little outside the norm.
Okay.
It's fantasy, you can build whatever you want.
Absolutely.
So you can start putting on some very not classic African hairstyles.
Right.
It's your, but you get a wide range of results. But if I look at these, here's one I saw near the beginning that I quite liked. So that gives them pretty different.
I like that. Okay, and then let's his gear. Let's have a look at gear. I think that's.
Yeah, and I think for clerics, I think we've got a few choices here. Again, not as many just yet.
Sure. I mean, that's why there's a Kickstarter.
Exactly. But yeah, you can see, here he is. Now, instead of carrying a weapon, he's got a walking stick and a lute. So he's getting a little, obviously this man's prepared for trouble, but he's not planning to start it.
Right. Absolutely. That is fantastic. Okay. So that is random generation. And what I like about what you're saying, Darren, is that as you're seeing the image, you're creating a little bit of a story based on what you're seeing. And you're saying, okay, well, he's got a lute, so perhaps there's a performance. Maybe he wanted to be a bard, but he had to go into the church because he wasn't very good at singing, but he does anyway. He has that staff, as you say. Is it a piece of wood he's just picked up along his journey? Is he on a journey? All those kinds of things start to come through when we see these portraits. Can you change his gender? Is that something possible? Is it baked in now?
We will be able to. That's probably a good example where the alpha is mostly done. But yeah, you'll be able to change gender. You'll also be able to change ethnicities. So, if you want to say, okay, this guy is actually Elven, how does that change him? So really, the idea is to make the characters very deeply malleable.
Right. Absolutely.
And then again, you can either pick classic things, or you can also pick maybe not what you would expect an elf to be wearing, but maybe this is an elf who's lived in another part of the world for quite a while and picked up some of the local customs. So it's it's one of the big things for us is saying, even if you had 1,000 pre-generated portraits to pick from, are you going to have the specific one that you want? And for that matter, are you going to have 5 of those that make sense together?
Absolutely.
Aren't necessarily identical.
And I think that's the important thing as well. What I like about this is that oftentimes you'll get these repositories of portraits and you go, okay, that's brilliant. And then you have 10,000 portraits to try and sort through. You've got thousands of portraits to sort through, but they lead you in a specific direction, which I quite like. So it's like, well, we're doing a cleric, we're doing this kind of cleric or that kind of cleric. I mean, 4 of those already look completely different. I mean, here he is slightly older. It's wonderful. This is the father, Right. So it's one thing to be able to generate thousands and thousands of characters for almost infinity. I mean, there is a limited number of combinations, obviously, but by the time it gets to that point, your players have died of old age, as far as I'm concerned. So it looks like there's good functionality there. Obviously, each of those portraits we can then print out, or we can add, etc., etc. And Darren is going to take us through some more of that later on towards the end of the video. So I think you're starting to see why I'm so excited about this. Even in its limited form as it stands at the moment as an alpha, Portrait Workshop is really, really powerful. Now, I have done other videos, if you are wondering, on portrait creators. Daz 3D, for example. They sponsored an episode where we made a barbarian. If you want to go and have a look at that, go and watch the video. There were multiple stages to take a 3D animated character into Photoshop, to then turn them more into a two-dimensional character, and then to move forward from there. There were a lot of processes, and so Portrait Workshop eliminates those. The financial model of Portrait Workshop, I think, is going to make you smile. We will talk more about that towards the end of the video. Importantly, and this was not mentioned in the interview that I did with Darren, is that the portraits will be, at the advanced level, able to be exported not only in color, but also in black and white. And that, for me, is something that is really, really cool for a whole bunch of reasons. Sometimes you don't have color printer, sometimes you don't want to waste ink, etc., etc., etc. But also sometimes you just want line art rather than a full-on colored portrait. Let's have a look now in terms of creating our own character. When we look at creating a character, there's many ways, and on the channel I talk about starting with a name first, rather than starting with your class or your make, etc., etc. Obviously, it's genre specific, that's the important thing. Here we have the opportunity to say, oh, I feel like I want to play a rogue. Let's look at the psychology behind what happens when we start to use something like Portrait Workshop. In terms of, here's an image, what do you think about that personality of that image? What do you think about that? Now, I've also spoken about this before, where you analyze a person and you try and work out their story based on how they look. Here, we can control all of that. So Darren makes a very interesting character, I think, whom, within the space of a few minutes, has this tremendous backstory.
So we'll start with the class, of course, is Rogue.
Okay.
And we'll see what that looks like. Do you have a more specific character in mind, or just a general purpose rogue?
Let's say a human rogue.
Okay. Very good.
And we'll see what comes out of that, and then we'll start to whittle it down. I think human rogue, someone who maybe is quite sneaky. Let's see what we get.
All right, we'll give that a shot. Are they male or female? Which are preference?
Let's go with female rogue.
Okay. And I'm making this one Caucasian because the last one we did a different race, so this will give us a little more coverage.
Ooh.
All right, so here's a bunch of rogues.
Interesting.
And
I like how there's some where you can go, oh, they've got quite a high charisma, and there's others where you're going, I can see where your stats were dumped. Oh, wow. That's so cool. Oh, I like that one. Let's see. She was 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 more up, I think. Go higher up. If you scroll up, sorry. So, yeah, there we go. The one right at the top right-hand side. I'm trying to work out. The one with sort of the pompous hair, or the impressive hair. Can we work on her a little bit?
All right. So let's see. The one with the bow.
No, sorry, one down from her, just directly below her, the one with the sword. Yes, I like her because the character I have in mind, as I said, is sort of a sneaky rogue. Already, the clothing that she's wearing is sneaky. Her hairstyle, though, for me, popped out. I haven't thought about this in terms of the character that I've got in my head, but she looks to me like she could almost be a noble who masquerades as a rogue, or who is a rogue and kind of goes sneaking out.
Who's slumming.
Or maybe she's not a rogue, she's an assassin, perhaps. Okay, what can we change from here? Can we change her? Can we change that cloak that she's wearing?
Sure. So let's look at a couple of different outfit choices here. And so one of the things worth mentioning is there's 2 levels to the program. There's basic and there's advanced. With basic, you pick outfit, and you get quite a wide range of outfits to choose from. You can pick whichever ones you want. With the advanced one, you can actually pick each piece of clothing individually and design it in more detail. So to keep things going quickly here, we'll just be using it at the basic level. But literally with advanced, you have a wardrobe of clothing, and you say, this is the undershirt, this is the overshirt, here's the shawl that goes over it in any level of detail you want.
Right.
But, so for this one, if we want to, we could... actually, you tell me which one you like best.
Yeah, so if you go down, there we go, bottom left-hand side where the tunic has been made grey.
All right.
I quite like that because to me, she wants to come across as being someone who is a lady of grace, but is quite boring, I think. I think that's her persona, is that she's quite she pretends to be boring, but she actually sneaks out at night and moonlights as this sort of character. The sword at the back, I think, is too obvious.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Let's give her a different weapon. And so let's see. We've got range of choices: the classic rapier, short sword,
the double-headed axe. It's like, this is not subtle at all. This is not subtle at all. So on her character sheet, I think a rapier is very cliched, though, but let's do it. Let's give her a rapier anyway.
Right. You can always say she's iconic, is another word for cliche.
Yes, there we go. Absolutely. The color of her eyes, can we change that?
Yes, we can.
All right.
And we'll do that. It's pretty subtle, but it does definitely make a difference.
It does. It's just the blue eyes and the red hair. I like that, but I think green eyes would be better. That's just one of my screens. But if you've got green, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, and one of the things, again, with this being the alpha, it'll actually be zooming in to show you the eyes better. So right now it's a little hard to actually see. So yeah, I picked the wrong color, I'm afraid. So we'll try it again.
Lovely.
That's
perfect.
Yeah, and then the other one, you also, if you want to, you can also change probably a more visible difference. You can change the hair color. If flame red is not the best thing for someone skulking about.
I agree.
Or then again,
absolutely. Yeah, let's give her some dark hair. I haven't got an age in mind for her, so I think some dark hair, maybe that black hair there, could work quite nicely. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, that's really coming together.
I think so. Okay, so now, and you have to tell me if this is possible or not. This is her when she's out sneaking at night. Can we do the same portrait, but now we change her outfit for her during the day? Can we save both of them?
Yeah, absolutely. And with the favorites feature, you can say, let's save this character here as you say, this is her cat burglary outfit. And then here she is in her noble guise. And we'll pick a very different outfit for her.
Yes. Something very... the fur is quite nice. I like that stole sort of over her shoulder. But I think more color, perhaps. Although we did say she was boring, but there's...
But maybe not that boring. Yeah, agreed. Yeah. So let's give her one with the one you were mentioning. Then let's change the color on that.
Yes. Something a bit more obvious. Let's see.
It seems to be a little obsessed with her being a thief at the moment. So.
That's okay. There was that green one which was quite striking. Oh yeah. So if you go back up a couple, I think.
Still So at the moment you're definitely seeing it being a little too leaning towards the archetype.
Okay.
We will be allowing you to pick any color at all you want, so you could do a much more striking color.
Right.
And similarly, she's running around not in her thief guise. She's probably not got her sword drawn.
Exactly right. I was about to say, can we get rid of her weapon? Okay, okay. So yeah, we can just keep going and we can keep refining. Now this is the process that I love to tinker with. Oh, there we go. That blue top is spectacular.
Yeah,
that's very different.
A little more presentable.
There we go. And if we were Clark Kent, she'd put glasses on and then no one would know who she was. So exactly. All right, so we can really build up quite a nice stable of imagery for our character, and we can tell these stories. We can go forward based on the imagery, and I really like that. I think that's a great component. Is that looking at this portrait, you would say she's probably quite severe, perhaps, as a person. She's not smiling. She's got that sort of darker lipstick on, neat hair. Very neat cloak, sort of pulling everything together. I like the fact that she's wearing purple, by the way. So can we change her smile?
We can. To change individual features, that's where you would use the advanced version. So we will be able to do that. I can't do that in today's demo, but we will be in the future.
Perfect, absolutely. Because having her smiling or something along those lines, it'll change it even more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Lovely. And from this portrait, as I have been saying, we can tell so much about the character. It's really this is the true power of Portrait Workshop. I think oftentimes we come across this problem that here is a character generator. Yes, great. And I will admit I have often used software from games, which allow you to make portraits, and then you kind of make the portrait in the game, and then you kind of do a screen grab, and you're like, yay, that's the person. But those have limits, and usually the limits are you can't make them young, or you can't make them old, or etc., etc. So there are limitations. Portrait Workshop, let's look at how they move into the next level, if you like, in terms of creating different age groups.
Yeah, the Hollywood syndrome is something we tried to avoid. If you want to have a 20-year-old beautiful princess, that's great. But if the leader of your country is not in her 20s, you should be able to make a great portrait for her as well. So in this case, actually I'll bring it back up. We have 4 different age categories we've done that cover roughly between 18 and 99. And we'll pick old for the moment.
Okay.
We'll just leave it blank, so we'll see what kind of characters we get. Yeah, there we go.
That's lovely. And it's across the spectrum too. It's not just, okay, we're going to do just that or just that. Look at that. There's it's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I find it's interesting as I've been working on the project for quite a while now. I actually prefer a lot of the old faces. I just think they have a lot more interesting character to them. There's only so much you can do with a perfectly unblemished, unwrinkled visage.
Right.
You bring up some of these people, and they feel like they've been around a bit. They've got something to say.
Absolutely. What history? What has he been fighting in? And of course, we can now change everything that we would normally want to change with the character. So I think that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah. Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny how the moment he goes with that sort of that collared shirt, he changes a little bit. And if you go with that green collared shirt, he's trying to be a woke sort of 60-year-old with this hipster style. It's I love the psychology behind character design and what a difference that makes. I mean, if he's suddenly wearing, can we go to a bright green or something?
Yeah, let's see what we can get in here.
Yeah, the moment he wears that green shirt, he becomes younger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
It's this bizarre kind of thing, and it's amazing. It's like, so suddenly his personality's changed because now he's not accepting his age; he's wanting to be younger. Anyway, I absolutely love it. Okay, that's enough for now. Anyway, that's the limitations of the alpha demo that they've got going to showcase this product. So it is available on Kickstarter. The link is down below, of course, in the video. You can go and follow that, join on with that. We certainly will be backing this project because we are involved in that project. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that a little bit later on. But for now, Darren is going to explain to us the financial models, which I think are going to make you very happy.
So as you say, we're launching today. We're very excited to get this in front of everyone after quite a while now, having cooked up what you've seen so far and planned a bit what comes next. The Kickstarter will be running through the 9th of February, and we're very excited to see the reaction during that time. We've heard really good feedback so far from those who've had a sneak peek, but now, of course, it's in front of the whole world, and it's an exciting and humbling time for us. And I think probably one of the most interesting aspects of the Kickstarter, like a lot of Kickstarters, is the stretch goals. We have 15 stretch goals. Every one of them takes a different direction and expands quite a bit in that direction. So if you want to do Dragonborn, or if you want to do a lot of wizardry, or if, for example, you want to do nautical characters, each one of those we have a different stretch goal that lets you go from making a certain amount in that area to a very large expansion of that area. I think that's going to be a really fun part of the project. And one of the things we're doing for advanced backers is we're actually letting people vote on which of these is their favorite, because there's 15 and we can't promise they'll all happen, much as we hope they will. So if there's one that's specifically interesting to you, if you back it at the advanced level, you can vote, and the top vote getters will move to the top of the list. So unlike a lot of stretch goals, we don't know which ones we're going to do in which order. That's up to you.
That's super cool. Darren, very quickly, I don't know, have you guys worked out a pricing model yet for this project?
Yeah, so the Kickstarter itself, the main two rewards are $10 for the basic and $20 for the advanced reward. And then there's party packs, and then there's also a publishing option. If you want to use this, for example, to put characters into a book and publish it for profit, that's something you can do at, we think, a very, very attractive price point.
Absolutely. And then moving forward, once the Kickstarter's finished, how much time do you think it's going to take before this becomes available?
Right. So from the Kickstarter, we've got a few months of work to do. The single biggest chunk, again, is to actually create all the assets to finish out the project. Again, these are being done carefully, hand drawn by very skilled artists, and that takes a little while. Even though we actually have a group of artists, not just a single person doing this. And then, of course, we need to finish the app. Obviously, get it from alpha. There will be a beta for backers to play with before it's final. But yeah, we'll actually this summer we expect to have the bulk of it done, and then by fall have everything completely finished. At which point we'll then make it available for everyone to get a hold of. Although, of course, if you get it in the Kickstarter, you're going to get it at a better price.
I see. Okay, and then moving forward from that, will it be a subscription-based model? Will it be a pre-purchase with then addition? What's your model for that?
Right. So what we're going to do once the app is final and released out into the world is we're going to have a free app that's available that has a very small chunk of content in it, enough that you can play with it and see what it looks like, and you can make some characters with it that are definitely usable. But the bulk of the content that you're going to see come out of the Kickstarter costs us money to do. We've had people backing the Kickstarter, hopefully, to make that possible. And post Kickstarter, the app itself will be free, and then there will be content packs for in-app purchase. There'll be actually very very inexpensive content packs, and depending on your character, you might need 2 or 3 packs to really make exactly the character you want. But it's a one-time purchase. So there is no subscription. Once you have it, you have it. And one of the big reasons that we thought it was so important to make it as a mobile device is if you're sitting around the table at an event, maybe you don't even have network access, depending if you're at a con that's overloaded. You can always make a character. You don't have to be online. You don't have to have a subscription. Once you buy it, you have it.
Fantastic, fantastic. That's really cool. And then just, I suppose, the last question that I have, and I know, guys, this is becoming a bit of a Kickstarter unpacker, but I think you're interested in this. I'm interested in this. When we export the character profile, how does that work at the moment? I mean, what's your plan in terms of the export sharing?
Right. Yeah. So for sharing, obviously the end result from this is you're creating a portrait and you want to do something with it. So you can store it locally into your device, and from there you can print it. You can upload it anywhere you want. Going on to Facebook, for example, or Instagram or Pinterest is kind of one step away from that. And one of the things we're very excited about is we are actually collaborating with our friends over at World Anvil, and we will have an integration, and so you can export it into your character page on World Anvil directly, which we think those two things will work very, very well together. and we're really excited to make that as easy to do as possible.
Absolutely. Darren, it's a fantastic project. I wish you guys all of the best success, because it's a success for all of us. I really, really think it's going to be super cool. So thank you so much for spending time with us and demoing this alpha version of Portrait Workshop.
Great, my pleasure. And to all of you out there, I hope you enjoy it, and we'd love to see your comments in our Kickstarter.
I told you they'd make you happy. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of subscriptions. Now, you don't have to worry about that for this particular project. So Q3, start saving up. Although from what I hear, the pricing model is particularly competitive in terms of what the final cost will be as well. Okay, so how are we involved in this project? Well, I screen grabbed some footage whilst Darren was showing me what they're doing. We are obviously releasing our book, A Complete Guide to Nautical Campaigns. And in that book, there are 55 separate characters. Is it 55? I could be lying. I think it's 55 characters in the adventures that we created. So I created 10 adventures, and there are 5 or 6 characters per adventure. So 55, 60 characters, somewhere along those lines. And we needed portraits. So when we heard about Portrait Workshop, I got hold of Darren and said, hey, listen, can we do a commercial, can we buy it? Can we do this? Can we do that? Can we do this? He said, yes, you can buy it. Absolutely. And yes, you can make the portraits for your book. But as usual, and if you have watched this channel for a long time, you'll know I have done this with World Anvil and with Dungeon Fog as well, who are also major sponsors of this channel, and for which we are ambassadors for a reason. They said, yes, we'll just have to go and make some nautical components quickly, because that wasn't in our initial release. I love it when companies listen to what people are asking for and then do it. And for me, it's a big tell that they were willing to take this extra step and develop things like harpoons and bandanas and pirate-like shirts and things for our book. So in our book, you will find their portraits, and you will be able to benefit from those extra assets, of course, because it's now been added to the catalogue of Portrait Workshop. The book drops at the end of February, so just after the Kickstarter for Portrait Workshop finishes. And you'll see all of their artwork in there. They custom made them for each character based on descriptions and things, and I think it's been absolutely amazing. So that is Portrait Workshop. That is a very brief look into the psychology of characters. And if you want more on this in terms of how do we take an image and create a character from it, or how do we create a character from the image, I will be happy to do that. Leave your comments down below. If you think Portrait Workshop is something that's exciting, leave your comment down below. If you think that it's something that's not offering anything new and you've got alternatives, hey, yes, they sponsored this video, but we're all here to learn. So leave a comment down below. I oftentimes will leave comments that link to other places and other programs and software so that we can look at what works best for us. This might not be the right option for you because you feel that the portraits are, I don't know, too portraity, and you'd rather do anime style, or you'd rather do photorealistic style. Absolutely fine, and I'm sure there's software out there that can do it. We don't know unless you link it down below. So open dialogue, open honest commentary. Let's have a start at how we go about creating character portraits for our character sheets. Some of you might not want them. Absolutely fine. I have many thousands of characters who don't have portraits, but I kind of like the portraits. I think they sort of bring them together. Until next time, however, I wish you and yours the very happiest of gaming.